do that.
How did you get by the laser field in the Great Hall?
Aha. The laser fields. Well.
Toodles. How's it going? Oh, good. Of course, 44 seconds. I have intros. Steve made another intro for me. I made a kind of an intro using Steve's intro, putting in new stuff to do with. We got volume. Okay. Put in a new intro to do with RCMP, just kind of a jackass one. But of course, I can't find it. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Steve's old intro still wonderful, so thanks to him. And he's in the house. Steve. And we got Rage, we got Ozzy, we got Lynn McDonald. I Smoke Weed is here. Well, who else do we have? Tattooed Shepherd. Beautiful in Nova Scotia today. Awesome. And Sally J. How's it going? How's it going there? Okay, so this morning, Paul Palango on again with Rick Howe. I tried to record it earlier, and of course, no volume. Great, of course, Seamus with all his techno problems. Gosh, I was trying to talk to even sister. What's going on there, Little Miss So? I was trying to talk to Steve today. Oh man, I'm telling you, my phone is absolutely polluted, as my friend would say. I used to experience this a lot in the old days, but it is completely trash. I cannot dial people. It hangs up. It does its own thing. Messages take I get the toilet bowl, the Windows toilet bowl. When I send a message, I get 20 seconds before a message will send. I don't know. I think somebody will watch it. Maybe I'm just totally loons. I don't know. Dave, what's happening? So, Paul Palango was on this morning. I didn't get a chance really to listen to it. I had it running in the background, and I was talking to Tara about a couple other things. So what we'll do is we'll just play it and listen together. How's that? Sounds good. How's it going there, Dave? From the UK. There we go. One of our brothers from the UK. How's it happening there? All kinds of good stuff happening over here, Dave, with crazy RCMPs we have here in this country, our constabulary. Oh, what a total mess. Anyway, they keep getting in trouble. Lots of exciting things. Good to see. I think we can all do this and do a little bit of this, right, everybody? Thank you for all the folks in the Discord. What's happening? Oh, the RCMP are getting sued! Now, let us all gather our information. Facts, not opinions, facts or suppositions, but facts. Get them together. Let's get them to that lawyer. Let's get them to the press. Globe and Mail contacted me today. So looks like things are maybe looking up. Maybe we're taking we're getting a little notice, which would be good. And apparently Paul Palango wanted me to contact him as well. So, or at least passed along his number. So hopefully we'll get that kind of stuff done. Maybe we can have some interviews. Bunch of us, the group, Steve, Adrian, myself, would be able to sit down with some of these folks, because it would be really good to ask them some questions and kind of impart maybe some of the knowledge that we've garnered along the way from together, all of us, right, who are working very hard, all of you. Thank you. It's a big thank you to you. If you're not in the Discord already, I believe I left the information. It should be in the down below. We've got how many people we have over there now? Let's have a boo. As it's loading. No problem. Impossible. Absolutely no problem. This is all of our fight, and we're all doing it together. So we're gonna get this one. I know we will. Now let's see who. How many people do we have over here now? Well, where's this? Where's this? We've got 2, 15 plus 77. We're up to 92 people. If my math is on. I was actually doing some math with my girlfriend's son yesterday. I was surprised. I'm actually not too bad. I remember how to do algebra. I don't know. Wonders never cease. Wonders never cease. So Paul Palango came out with a great interview last week on the Rick Howe show and said a bunch of interesting things, which have been verified now. 475,000 Mr. Wortman withdrew, and there's video of that. I downloaded that. Very interesting over at the Brinks. And the bodies, the relationship between bikers seeming to be not quite substantive proof, but there's a very good tangential connection there. And some horrific details coming forward from Maclean's magazine article. I don't know if anybody happened to catch that, about the body parts. This is really quite foul. RCMP, this is how much regard that the RCMP hold the citizens in general, right? They're going to return, I believe that was Mr. Blair's wife's car, and it wasn't quite clean, shall we say. Honestly, if I had gotten that car, I understand that that's a criminal act, but I probably actually would have parked that on in front of the RCMP headquarters and started it on fire. I wouldn't want that car anymore, number one, and number two, if you're going to return it to me in that kind of quality, I know, I'm talking here probably just from emotion, but how horrendous. We're thoughtless, totally and utterly thoughtless to return a car in that condition and expect the family to clean it up. But this is keeping lock and stock with exactly what the RCMP has been doing. And hopefully we're all waking up to the fact that these people honestly don't care about us at all. This is all about them. It's always been all about them. It's been about covering their tracks the entire way from the inception of that phone call that they got for 911, because they knew exactly what they were dealing with, because they'd had decades of this nonsense going on with Mr. Wortman. Why? Why do they want to cover it up? And I would say that that's because they have some hand in what happened there. Whether it's a CI, again, this is not substantiated necessarily. Maybe Mr. Palango will have something to share on that one. But there's clearly a pass that's given to Mr. Wortman all the time, right? I mean, if you're going to literally tell them where the guns are, and it's an internal memo to all of the intelligence services in Nova Scotia, you're going to literally tell them, first of all, you're threatening the police. This is just one of many, of course, right? We all know. You're threatening an actual police officer in general. I want to, do harm to any individual police officer. And oh yes, I'm going to tell you that the guns will be located 200 Portapique Beach Road, behind the chimney, in a secret compartment. And I know I've read that online way before this all came out from somebody who is a contractor who did the work. And they said, well, I know where the guns were. again, you can't always believe everything you read. You have to filter. So, but it's all came out, all substantiated. So let's have a listen to Mr. Howe. You don't want to hear me talking babbling. I think I've got it lined up here. Please let me know, like whatever, a 1 or something. I know there's something with my computer. So I don't think the audio quality will be like it was piping straight through, but we'll see how good it is. Just give me a thumbs up that you can hear it, and let's go.
So give us a call between 11 and 12 here this morning, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Anything goes in our open hours, and there's lots we can talk about here this morning. But coming up here shortly, we just got to make contact again with Paul. We had him on the line, but somehow something happened, and he's got
something happened.
Just getting back because there's a new article in Maclean's magazine headlined, "The Nova Scotia killer had ties to criminals and withdrew a huge sum of cash before the shooting." And the story reveals that Gabriel Wertman withdrew $475,000 from a Briggs office in Burnside days before his rampage that took the lives of 22 Nova Scotians. Nova Scotia-based author and journalist Paul Palango co-wrote the Maclean's piece. And Paul joins me on the phone here this morning. Mr. Palango, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Rick.
How you doing this morning, Paul?
It's been sort of a hectic couple of days putting all of this stuff together, but I think we're sort of moving in the right direction now on this story.
No question, interesting article. Well, let's start where it starts. And Palango withdrew in late April $475,000 in cash just days before he put on that RCMP uniform and started, killing, as it says here, neighbors, contacts, and random strangers. Withdrew the money from the Brinks office in Burnside. What do we know about why he took that money out? What became of that money? What do we know about this, Paul?
Well, we don't know why he took it out or exactly where it comes from, whether he cashed in his assets. If you recall, a couple of days ago, they had details of his will where he said he had $1.2 million in assets, $700,000 of it, which was in the assessed value of his properties that he owned. The other $500,000 was in RRSPs and other assets. So we don't know if he cashed in those or he had a secret stash of cash. But he took the $500,000 out, or not, $475,000 out, and demanded that it seemed that he wanted it quickly. It was in $100 bills, and then he wanted it Brinks to deliver it, but then he wanted to pick it up at Brinks or whatever. It's an unusual sort of situation, but he picked it up at Brinks.
Yeah, and again, what became of the money? I understand that the lawyer in this class action lawsuit that was filed this week believes that the RCMP might still have that money. What do we know about this?
I think Wertman was, carrying the money around with him. It's not, you think $475,000 would be a lot of cash, but in $100 bills, it works out to, about 8 liters, equivalent of 8 liters. You put it in a sort of a carry bag. It only weighs about 10 or 11 pounds, or 5 kg. So I think he was carrying it right to the end, and I think the police have it.
But they haven't revealed that, have they?
Well, Rick, the police haven't revealed very much at all. They basically tell us what we probably already know. That's what they've been doing, and that's part of the problem.
But again, we don't know what he was using with that money other than he was in a carry-all, basically. You're right, $100 bills, and he was just carrying it with him, basically.
Well, we could speculate on why he had the money. Was he, there are suggestions he was paranoid, he was worried about COVID, was he cashing out and taking the money and basically going to ride things out? I don't know why he was carrying it around with him. I mean, there's also the speculation, and there's lots of room for speculation here because the RCMP is basically not telling us anything. Or was he, on the other end of the story where we talked about him possibly being a confidential informant, was he trying to buy his safety because his cover had been blown?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. Again, one of the mysteries that perhaps a public inquiry might shed some light on. Huh?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's absolutely a need for a public inquiry here. And one of the real problems we have is that at the provincial level, we have Mark Furry, an ex-RCMP staff sergeant,
Oh no.
overseeing an investigation into a heinous series of crimes and a absolutely abysmal performance by the RCMP. And he's the person supposedly looking after the RCMP, and it's well known that he's buddies with the guys at the top of the RCMP. That's a fact. And then you look at the federal level, you have Bill Blair, another former policeman, police chief of Toronto, is in charge of the Solicitor General's office overseeing police. I mean, one of the problems in this country is that, there's all kinds of questions being raised about the performance of police and reforms in policing and whatever, and governments at both levels and in other provinces as well have found it wise to appoint former policemen to be in charge of the police. How can we expect a fair, sort of disinterested approach to this serious problem?
Your article also, you told us about Peter Allen Griffin last week when we talked here, the neighbor of Wortman's imported pig linked to the Mexican drug cartel and the Hells Angels. And your article, this new one in Maclean's, reveals that he printed the decals that Wortman used on his replica RCMP cruiser. Tell us more about this.
Well, first of all, Rick, I want to thank you for giving me the time last week to basically raise these issues, because, the money I raised, the issue of the money, I didn't know what happened. The Peter Allen Griffin I raised, and people in your audience responded as I'd asked them to, and it was very, very helpful. So what Griffin did, Griffin was, it's come to me actually in the last, since the article came out last night, that he's a longtime friend of Wortman's, and since he got out of prison in Alberta, he was working as Wortman's handyman and basically doing a number of things with him, working closely, was a drinking buddy of his, and he worked at a sign shop. And that Griffin, this guy with serious organized crime sort of ties, was the guy who applied the decals to the fake RCMP car that was used in the Rampage.
So we were working at a printing shop, so he printed up these decals without the knowledge of the business's proprietor, right? Basically did this on his own.
Yeah, no, I don't think he printed them up. I think they purchased them and he applied them, because you need some sort of laser technology to do it. And he did that. The owner didn't know what was going on because it was done after hours.
Yeah, and again, Griffin, Peter Allen Griffin, who is it's hard to put all this together here, but he and one of the victims' mothers, his mother and one of the victims' mothers are sisters. So there's another connection there.
Yeah, this is another connection. In fact, I've got to correct that. I always correct. 11 o'clock last night, I was contacted by someone who'd been trying to reach me for a week and hadn't been able to find me, and they finally found me after they saw the Maclean story last night, and told me that Griffin, although it appears in obituaries, because it's so difficult to find information, because nobody wants to talk, because it got the RCMP on one side, and a lot of people are sort of afraid of the RCMP for whatever reason, and you've got the Hells Angels on the other side. People are really, really reluctant to talk, but this person called and said, there's an error in that story, and I admit there is an error now, that Griffin's mother is actually the cousin of the person that she's reported to be the sister of. And so Sean McLeod, the jail guard in Spring Hill, is actually the second cousin of Griffin, although they were raised as cousins.
Yeah,
so technically they're second cousins.
I also heard that McLeod's partner, Alana Jenkins, who was also murdered by Wortman, was at one time Wortman's former girlfriend.
I'm not familiar with that, because I haven't really spent that much time on Wortman, because, as you know, like through the Halifax Examiner, I was exploring sort of the RCMP side of the story while everyone was chasing Wortman, and then I got to the point where the two stories converge. And so I've only recently come over to the Wortman side.
Yeah, but he did spend several hours at their home after he killed the couple, right? Killed McLeod and Jenkins. And we don't know what he was doing there yet, do we?
No, he spent 3 hours there. We know he didn't have a cell phone. Was he calling people? Was he, like, nobody really knows. I mean, according to the obituaries, Alana Jenkins was died before McLeod. I don't know how they know this or what's going on. That's never been revealed. And it seems that McLeod was his target.
Boy, again, this just gets more and more questions that need answers here. One of the other things that the RCMP said at their last update was that Wortman, in his replica RCMP car, did not pull over the two VON nurses in their separate vehicles, which led me to wonder at the time, then how did he kill them? But his class action lawsuit suggests that the family members dispute the RCMP account of that. What do you know about this situation?
Other than what I've seen, from the poor performance of the RCMP in this, I mean, they've had a number of misstatements in their public messaging from the beginning, and they've been obviously hiding something. And this has led to all kinds of conjecture because of it's obvious there's something being hidden here. I mean, from the outset, one of the first comments I ever made was about the poor response and how a corporal who showed up at the scene essentially froze. I think this was the third Mountie to arrive at the scene, froze, and was supposed to be in charge. Well, I had a Mountie call me last night and who was close to the scene and said, in fact, the corporal not only froze, but got out of her car, turned off her flashlight, and hid in the woods. And this is from a serving Mountie.
Wow.
Telling this, and I don't disbelieve it because it basically confirms what I've been saying all along, that the chaos at the scene, the original scene, is just remarkably unprofessional. And there are insights I'd have that I'd like to help the families with and help their case. I have people who have actually come forward who want to help the families from the RCMP community because they're so disgusted.
Well, the families of at least two of the victims killed in that rampage have decided now to go the next step. They are launching a class action lawsuit against the RCMP, saying that the Mounties failed to protect their loved ones from the gunman. And we'll hear more about that when we come back after this break. Paul Palango is my guest. He's the co-author of a piece in Maclean's magazine. He and Stephen Marr wrote this piece, and we'll hear more about it when we come back after this quick break. Coming up to 10:49, Paul Palango, my guest. He co-authored a new article in Maclean's magazine, headlined, "The Nova Scotia Killer Had Ties to Criminals and Withdrew a Huge Sum of Cash Before the Shooting." Paul, as you know, a couple of family members of some of the victims have now filed a class action lawsuit claiming that the RCMP failed to protect their loved ones from the gunman. It alleges that even though the RCMP knew that Wortman had a prior history of violence, he was on the loose. They failed to protect the public from the shooter and failed to adequately warn the public about the active shooter situation, something you've told us in many occasions in the past. But I want to ask you about one piece of information that came out of this class action, and that is at least one family had their car, the victim, returned to the family with shell casings and pieces of human still in it. How outrageous is that? How could that be, Paul? Why would this be allowed to happen?
Well, the RCMP, and I've been saying this for years. I know there are people who call in and say I'm a nutcase. I've heard them. I'm not a nutcase. I actually know what I'm talking about. The RCMP, in its own reports, its own reporting, its own sort of the consultants it hires say this is a dysfunctional operation with a broken culture. That's words from their own reports, and outsiders who have studied it in the last couple of years come to much the same conclusion. They're just serious lapses in the ability of this force to perform in the public interest. And they seem to have lost sight of who they are and what they should be doing. I mean, nothing surprises me, unfortunately. I mean, when I did my first piece in Maclean's last month, I said the Nova Scotia shooting encapsulates all that is wrong with the RCMP. Well, little did I know all this other stuff was going to happen since then that sort of, it's breathtaking how dysfunctional the force is. And it's also equally breathtaking that you could have politicians like the Premier of Nova Scotia and the Justice Minister of Nova Scotia standing back saying, we're going to let the RCMP investigate itself. Yeah. I mean, this is just diabolically stupid.
But how lack of what a lack of compassion to turn the car back over to the family and say, you clean it. I mean,
well, that's right, absolutely. But you know, the RCMP has basically lost touch with the communities. It's policing. I mean, it's just going through. It seems to be just going through the motions of performing its job, and it's sort of lost. You know, it's like the old line about the. What did they call it? The Irish setter, lost at the end of its leash. You know, it doesn't know what it's doing. It doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing. And that's the crisis in policing we face right now. And then politicians have to wake up to that.
Yeah. You've talked with a number of, as you point out, current and former police officers for this article, and some have suggested that they're suspicious about the motives, you write, behind the delay in calling an inquiry. Elaborate on that for me here. What is their suspicion?
That's a key thing that, you know, if you look at this as Workman was just a crazy guy, which the RCMP keeps focusing on, saying it was a fluid and chaotic scene, and this crazy guy planned all this out. You don't have to tell me or the public that Gabriel Workman was a crazy guy. I know that. That he acted the way he did, okay, now we're 9 weeks down the road. What has happened? We haven't been told any useful information about this. The RCMP has not laid any charges, against anyone in this, for the guns that were found, et cetera, the decals on the car. And my police sources say one of the reasons they've done this is because they don't want to create files that basically will be found out and explain what's going on. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on? And I keep coming back to, and other police people are now coming back to, the fact that Workman was some sort of confidential informant for the RCMP involved in the biker world. He had Griffin at his side, who was a biker, notorious biker, who appears to have had Hells Angels sort of connections and approvals from both people I've talked to in the community and police. But there are other biker-related things that all through this story that just don't make sense. And not the least of them being, the whole timing of this thing sort of coincides beginning back in February, and the descent into craziness of Workman coincides with a series of raids on the Hells Angels in Fairview, Spryfield, Halifax, and in New Brunswick. What's going on? There's something in there, and the last part of this is that in the previous conversation, remember I linked this to New Brunswick. I said, this is all being run out of New Brunswick. After putting that on your show, I had a number of people come forward and say, in the policing community, saying this all relates to New Brunswick, RCMP basically taking over all biker operations last fall. And there are a number of serious things happened during that period when everything was moved under the direction of New Brunswick. I mean, some Mounties have said we should be looking into, and the public should, the media public should be looking into the tragic suicide of a staff sergeant named Bruce Reed on October 25th.
In New Brunswick.
In New Brunswick, that he had the background to be involved in something like this. And the suggestion is something went horribly bad and he couldn't take it anymore. We don't know, but I think that, we're going to need some help here like we did last week. Last week I asked about the money, I asked about Griffin, people came back. Well, right now, you know who I'm going to ask for help from?
Who?
The Hells Angels.
What do you want to hear from the Hells Angels?
Well, it's a funny thing that I want to know if they had contact with Workman. Let's put this thing to bed. And people will say, well, why would you contact the Hells Angels? It's funny that McLean's managing editor, Charlie Gillis, who I've written about in the past in another context, I was running this past him the other day, and he says when he was in Alberta, the Hells Angels actually had their own public relations guy to deal with the media on media questions. And the suggestion that's sort of like a wildfire growing under the RCMP, that there was a connection to the Hells Angels. well, why don't they get a hold of me? We could sort of work it out, or get a hold of your favorite reporter, and we can work it out and find out, was there a connection? And let's explore this, because it's not going to hurt the Hells Angels. Griff puts this thing to this whole notion to bed for once and for all, and we can move on.
What about asking the RCMP? Was Gabriel Wortman a confidential informant? Have they been asked that question?
Well, I think they have been asked it. The problem is, a confidential informant has a promise of anonymity even in death. However, you've asked a good question, because in my story in Maclean's, I refer to a Form 2315. A Form 2315 is something the Mounties will send about to the top, to the Deputy of Operations in Ottawa, about any project or major investigation they're undertaking. And in those, I'm led to believe that by Mounties on the inside, that in these forums, the Mounties actually talk candidly about what's going on and what the situation is. And I think that as citizens and journalists, we should start pursuing these Forms 2315s and finding out what is in them regarding either the Hells Angels or this whole massacre that's taken place. But I think that's where the key lies, where what they're hiding is in those forums. And I would encourage people to sort of start asking politicians, start to push to find out what's going on.
Well, it sounds like there's a whole lot more information to be learned about all of this still to come yet. And Paul, I appreciate again your time here this morning. Can I say one last thing? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm doing this, like people say, I've heard commenters come on the radio and say, oh, you're doing this for the money. Well, you can ask the Halifax Examiner how much money I got for the 5 pieces I wrote.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because I'm a citizen.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this as an important public interest story. I run my own business. My wife has health issues. I have my own issues I have to deal with. I'm doing this because I believe in the public interest. I believe in the story. And I think there's others who have to do this as well. Get off the couches and start asking your politicians and demanding that we find out what happens. Don't just sit there and wait, because nothing will happen.
Paul, appreciate your time here this morning. We'll talk again.
Thank you.
All the best. Take care. Paul Palango, Nova Scotia-based author and journalist, and our continuing conversation about the rampage in mid-April that saw 22 Nova Scotians murdered. And again, as Paul has pointed out, today and last week as well, there's lots we still don't know about what's behind all of this, and the different connections with the Hells Angels, drug cartels from Mexico. It's an amazing story, that's for sure. All right, 2 minutes down.
All right, so interesting things. So the pressure's on. The RCMP, in my estimation, I voiced that the other night with the article that they said that they're thinking that there's co-conspirators now. This is a tactic that they're using to not answer anything further in the future. They're going to seal right down. You watch them carefully. This is my opinion, but I suspect it's going to be true. It's been substantiated in the past with their actions that they will seal up entirely now, because they know that the heat is on. How can we avert the heat best as possible is always the goal, right? And this was the beginning, from the beginning, because they knew that this was going to come down. So it was use Twitter. It was don't inform people on time. Don't use the emergency alert. Shred the documents in terms of and then claim that it was a 2-year limitation span on the internal memo. Lots and lots of interesting things. They always say they're investigating things. They got some real classic lines. Let's see, what do they say here? Let me hear what you guys think of the interview. Whilst I'm looking for this. Cert sealed and approved. Yep. Why is CERT investigating the weapons that Mr. Wortman had? The only reasonable explanation is the fact that he shot Gina Goulet with a police issue weapon. I suspect, though, maybe there might be something more to just one weapon. I think there may be more than just one RCMP issue weapon involved. And this is why we haven't heard anything about the other ones. And again, that's not, I don't have any facts to back that up, which I always need to be careful of, but that's my opinion. My opinion. Why are you wanting to keep a lot of this stuff secret? Why do you want to keep secret? How many times Mr. Officer Morrison was shot? Is that a big secret? Is that a national security secret? Of course not. Of course not. A lot of this stuff is just defying logic, right? And this is the trap that we fall into, which is very sad because we're constantly sitting there questioning, and I fall into it from time to time. Why would you do this? Well, the simple answer is you're thinking with a moral compass. You're thinking with, what would I do if I were in that position, right? I'm going to inform everybody. I'm going to get as much help from all the departments as possible, Amherst and Truro. Come on in here, boys. We need you. We need as much help as we can get. But that's not what it's about. It's about working for themselves and, in consequence, working against you, working against families, working against the people that they're sworn to protect, because that's not their occupation. Their occupation is to protect themselves and to act as a militia, almost form an intelligence unit. The intelligence side of the RCMP is very, very spooky. They're highly, highly tied to international intelligence agencies, such as the NSA or the Six Eyes. CSIS, many people go back and forth between the RCMP and CSIS, including friends of Wortman's uncle. One of Wortman's uncles was majorly back and forth between CSIS. So let's hear some of your opinions here going on. Wouldn't be the first time that the RCMP have, quote, made a mistake. Made the mistake. Oh, yes. The RCMP, again, we're just trying to rationalize something here in our own minds. Oh, my goodness, they're making a lot of mistakes. Well, when you have the plethora of mistakes that the RCMP are making, you start to see that, no, they're not making mistakes. They're intentionally working against you. You don't go to court, the Nova Scotia government, the federal government, the RCMP, don't go to court to bury something that is law. This is your property. These things, these documents, all of them, the ones that aren't released. How many do we have? I think we're up to 8 now, out of over 20. And the 8 that we have, well, I mean, you can just flip through them. How much black is on a piece of paper? These are public documents. Public. You are entitled to these. In fact, anything that the government does, you are entitled to. Because it's your property, because you pay for it with your taxes. Right? Not working for you, working against you. Now, let's see if we can hear some of their quotes. Where am I at here? Wonder what casing was found in the car. I'm not sure if you're referring to the family car, or I would suspect that's from Mr. Wortman doing the not pulling over. Where's that quote? Oh, no, he didn't pull anybody over. Again, it's just logic. if you're saying that he's arriving from Debert to Truro in 8 minutes, which is a 20-minute drive, what is he doing? Flying a broom? Does he use his RCMP cruiser? Stop it. Then use a broom, use his feet, a bicycle, something else, pull 2 people over, or not pull 2 people over. Somehow, I don't know, just shoot them. And then bicycle, use the broom back to the RCMP cruiser so that he can continue onward. Defies logic. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Toy, good news. Good news. Dropping stuff in there. Let's see here. I think they don't want to release postmortem information about the victims because police projectiles. Exactly. You're right on the money. We've made some claims over here. They are claims, but I think that they are founded in truth. Why would you not want to release an autopsy report? Again, by Nova Scotia law, I don't have, obviously, the autopsy report. Nobody does. The RCMP do. They're not going to release them to the families. You have to ask yourself, why? What are you hiding? And I think right there is the truth. Smoke weed, hit it on the head, right? These are things that we've been talking about. They don't want to have to come forward and talk about anything. So you're going to see them, I think, at this point in time, absolutely seal down the hatches. You're not going to hear word boo out of them. And this is not the first time that this goes on commonplace with the RCMP, which is very sad. Lots of good police officers that are in there, but my next statement to somebody who is a good police officer within the RCMP would be, do you want to be working for an organization that has been defamed, that defames you personally? I work for the RCMP, but the RCMP have a very bad name. But I'm not going to say anything about it. I understand the fear component. I really do. These people are scary, but when we're kids, we're all taught that you have to stand up to a bully. And if enough of you stand up, to which they're the vast majority, right? Good, hardworking people, RCMP officers, stand up. Say, hey, I've had enough. We always say the stuff about the Me Too movement, and it encourages women to come forward. Well, why don't we have a Me Too for the RCMP? Come forward. Start spilling the beans. Clean it up. Because if you don't want to clean up your community, if it was happening in my community or in the Irish community, right? I don't want to be known for something and be defamed. That personally doesn't feel good. I want to clean that up. I want people to have a good opinion of me and my people, right? So why aren't the RCMP wanting to do this? Why are certain groups? I'm not going to leave it solely with the RCMP. But if this is a problem within your community, you don't deny. That's obfuscating, avoiding, not dealing with the problem. And if you don't confront the problem, if you don't put a name on the problem, Sun Tzu, right? Always know your enemy. If you can't know it, then you can't deal with it. And this is up to people, rank and file, good police officers, good citizens. Take it on a much broader issue outside of the RCMP. Let's clean up our backyards. Let's clean up our own backyard and then start to move forward collectively, because this just isn't working. Right. Let's see here. Smoke weed was stepped down from being HA in 2016 as executive member of 13. Wow, that's interesting. 13 crew chapter, MC chapter, motorcycle club. Doesn't even exist now. Didn't take long. We were equals to Red Devils. And Red Devils, that is in Nova Scotia, isn't it? I'm trying to remember. But you notice how the comment that Palango said in his article in Maclean's magazine was something that we said on here a long time ago about how the woman who's obtaining or writing these search warrants for the RCMP, her background is in motorcycle gangs and drugs, undercover work. Coincidence? I think not. I think not. I think we're talking about something a lot bigger here. I think we may be talking about a Mr. Big operation. I think that's why we have the large sums of cash. Mr. Big operations, RCMP have been proven to use large sums of money to try to prove to other criminals, listen, we're bad. We're real badass. You can trust us. Look at us. Which is essentially entrapment. And yet they keep running them. How many times have we had Mr. Big operations run in Canada? I think there's over 100. Let's just have a look. Mr. Big. Mr. Big. RCMP. There we go. Police procedure. Developed by the RCMP. Right. Who can't deal with one citizen going completely citizen cop, whatever he was, CI. He could have been a police officer, by the way. I know that's slightly tinfoil, but it's possible. But undercover, right? Why do we have this level of criminality being committed by the very police force that is trying to prevent crime? Very strange. No shortage of cash for a denturist. Yep. I'm not sure. I don't think we have our denturist friend in the chat right now, but I did have a little visit with him about how much money. He was a practicing denturist down in Nova Scotia for many years. How much money do denturists make? And he's like, not anything like that. I had to practice there. Howdy, G. What's going on? So the Mr. Big operations, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're very interesting. They are police officers create fictitious gray area, known as the Canadian technique. Yay! Yay! Developed by the RCMP. Yay! Mr. Big was developed by the RCMP, who can't even go down a road, deal with one man. They hide off in the bush. We talked about that too. And this is a sad reality. Some of those officers in there, and I do understand fear, but that's your job. You can't be a fireman, sign up and say, I like these paychecks and I like to do the calendars and all the women on me or whatever it is to do with firemen, right? And then when it comes time to go and respond to a fire, say, you know what, actually, I'm kind of afraid and I don't want to deal with that fire. If that's the way that you are, you're not qualified to be a fireman. Got to be fired. Fire the fireman. So if you have police officers that aren't willing to go and deal with a dangerous situation, which was one singular individual on Portapique Beach Road, running around like a lunatic. oh yes, their claim then will be, well, we just didn't know it was fluid and it was dynamic. Well, there is only one way to deal with a fluid and dynamic situation, and that is to deal with it. You don't seal down the road and let that just run amok until 4 a.m. And some very good police officers did go in. I would love to have been, sadly, a bug on the wall down there at that time when it was at the end of the road, because you know that there were some police officers who were like, I know about these kids on the phone for 2 hours with 911 whose mother is dead on the lawn out in front, who are terrified and now have grouped themselves together with the other 2 kids and are like, please come and save us. Can you imagine the trauma those kids endured? Do you think that they think police will come and save them in the future? And then the RCMP has the audacity to say, Canadians are behind us. Nova Scotians are behind us. Frankly, I would like to see a list of those people. I understand that there are some people that you have hoodwinked with your shenanigans, but I think this time there's a lot of people who know what's going on. At least in the sense that they're like, a lot of people died, and you're not answering any questions that the media poses to you, or the media, even in some cases, is complicit on burying some information. Why is that? So those light bulbs are going off? Those kids, yeah. I mean, they have kept me up at night, literally. Pretty horrible. Even in the Onslow police hall situation, I got to find these clips, because these clips, they're very good. But I'm very glad that Mr. Palango and like journalists are coming out and asking questions, making, in cases, you can make suppositions, you can make theories, especially if they're not going to differ with them. And the fact that they're not going to differ with them, as in they're not going to come out and say, you know what, you're absolutely wrong about that, and here is why. You just... That's called really tacitly admitting that you are guilty of lots of stuff. Here we go. Here's the lie about did not pull anybody over. This is one of the things that they're being sued for.
I can confirm to the investigation and witness accounts that the gunman did not use the RCMP replica vehicle to pull over any of the victims who were in the vehicles at the time.
This one is very, very easy to prove. We only need to look at Google Maps to determine the distance and time that it takes to travel between Debert and Truro. Many Nova Scotians drive this drive daily, right? And they know that they can't drive it in 8 minutes. But Mr. Campbell, and you know that at the beginning of it, as in up in Debert, we have an RCMP cruiser, and at the end of it, we have an RCMP cruiser, and it's the same cruiser. It really isn't a leap of logic to know that that's the same cruiser going through. So what is he doing? Throwing donuts at them? I don't know what they're actually trying to say. When you have cars on the side of the road, one car and one actually in the ditch. Oh yes, let's hear that again. That's called lying.
I can confirm through the investigation and witness accounts that the gunman did not use the RCMP replica vehicle to pull over any of the victims who were in their vehicles at the time.
One of my questions would be, if I was one of the journalists there, what did he use? A broom? A bicycle? A uni-wheel? Whatever the fuck? Maybe one of those motorized things that never really caught on. Skateboard? I don't know. Because maybe we had the same police car transported from the beginning in Debert. Something came, like, I'm just using complete, I'm being absolutely insanely facetious. We had a helicopter come and pick up the car and then fly it over from Debert to Truro, and then he met up with the car, and in between what was that?
I can confirm through the investigation and witness accounts that the gunman did not use the RCMP replica vehicle to pull over any of the victims who were in their vehicles at the time.
How insulting to your intelligence. I can't speak for you, but I certainly can speak for myself. When I hear a statement like that, I'm like, I understand that you're trying to say that I'm stupid, but even going that far shows how stupid you are. And I understand insulting is not beneficial, but it is really, really insulting to our intelligence to look at this kind of stuff. No respect. They have lost any respect that they may have had. This was a cultural image of Canada. I understand it's been tainted and destroyed over the years. And maybe I grew up with a false sense that the RCMP were a police unit that protected the people. But I certainly don't have any respect for them now. And this should be a motivation for all of the good officers there to say, enough. We're going to mutiny. We're going to say absolutely nothing about. We're going to go to the press. We're going to talk a lot. And there's so many of us, you can't fire us. Hell, they've got their union now, even though that union boss, he lies. He lied. Let's see here. What other ones does he have here? Okay, here's another good one.
Telecommunication off.
I want you to think about this. You're how old? I think 5, 7 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. I want you to think about that. Go back in your mind to when you were that age and how much you needed your mom and dad. Now imagine if your mom is dead on the lawn, okay? And you've been taught phone 911. Listen to this one.
Operators remained on the line with witnesses in the immediate area for extended periods of time.
Let's hear that again.
Telecommunication operators remained on the line with witnesses in the immediate area for extended periods of time.
You know what extended periods of time is? 2 hours. Do you know who the witnesses are? They're not witnesses, sir. They're victims. Their mom is dead. both are. Actually, it's because were we talking about Macaulay, and we're talking about. Sorry, this is terrible. I don't mean to do. My memory is just so jogged full of stuff. Well, not Blair. Somebody please correct me and help me out. Parents dead. Stepmom, your what is that? Your dad and your stepmom and your mom dead. And you're phoning 911. 2 hours.
Communication operators remained on the line with witnesses in the immediate area for extended periods of time.
And do you see how he minimizes it? He makes it sound like, oh, extended periods of time, and they're just witnesses, and it's not that really that important. The Blair children. Yeah, okay, sorry. So, okay, my apologies. Blair children. Horrific. Their brother, how old is he? 26? Their half-brother? Stepping up to the plate, and he's raising those 2 kids now. And I remember watching the interview with him on CTV, and he's like, those kids are so brave. I'll tell you, broke my heart. Broke my heart. You know that telecommunications operator has been traumatized unbelievably too. She had to sit on the phone and say, we're coming. I promise we're coming. But my mom will be there. We care about you. We love you. We will be there. Holy Christ. You hear about people talk about how half a minute seemed like hours? What about 2 hours? You're a little child. And this is was this the one?
That he did not have
Okay, this is what they do in the press interviews. Frank magazine gets shut down. Don't come to the press conferences anymore. That's enough. We're busy. We can't answer any more questions. How about this one?
That he did not have an FAC, firearms acquisition certificate.
Were handguns used in his attacks?
Do you hear the? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. No, shut it down. Shut it down. Listen to it. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Acquisition certificate.
Were handguns used?
Who does that? Who does that? Except people who work against you. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, these people. Wow. Here's why Frank didn't get to go back. You want to know why Frank didn't get to go back? This is why.
Hi there, Andrew Douglas from Frank Magazine. There isn't any public safety risk anymore. The shooter is dead, and since he's dead, we don't need to protect his right to a fair trial. What is behind your hesitance to provide details on what you know now? We understand that there are things that you don't know, but what is your hesitance to provide details on what you do know now?
So, for instance, the timeline. I would like nothing more than to provide the media and public with the timeline. But
well, if you would like nothing more to do it, then my question would be, why don't you do it? Somebody said that to me on the street. I would like nothing more than to help you with that. I would be like, well, then why aren't you helping? Good point there, smoke weed. Great point. This is the people who run the firearms program. That license that sits in my pocket. I know who runs the program. I had to apply. It took forever. They don't even know the name of their own program. They don't even know. They can't sit there and put into their computer. Or that's what they want you to think. Oh, it took us a long time. We had struggles. We didn't know. You know how long it would take to put in a name on a computer, don't you? If you have a gun license, you certainly know how long it takes when you call them, because they can pull it up real fast. But they can't do it for days and days. And then they're like, the first part of that question is, well, we're still looking into that. And then somebody asks a little bit more, and then they say, well, actually, we know he didn't have one. Yeah, the FAC. Yeah. They just want you to think that you're stupid. They want you.
It literally is still a work in progress. And it would be unfair and inappropriate for us to give that out in its current state. We are very close, I would say within a day, of providing a timeline with some detail, because appreciate, and I know I've said this at previous meetings here, we are still piecing together the movements of this subject. We believe we have identified the locations and sites that he attended and when he did, but there certainly are gaps that still need to be investigated.
Why does it have to be wrapped up in a bow in order to give that information? Why can't you tell us what you know?
The concern is always that we give information that is not completely accurate, and in a rush to provide the public and the media.
Here's a question. I hate interrupting, but I do all the time, so you'll have to pardon me. Here's a question. They're concerned about, let's hear that statement again.
We have identified the locations and sites that he attended and when he did, but there certainly are gaps that still need to be investigated.
Why does it have to be wrapped up in a bow in order to give that information? Why can't you tell us what you know?
Mm-hmm.
The concern is always that we give information that is not completely accurate, and in a rush to provide the public and the media with that information, we err. And
you erred a lot.
those mistakes can be impactful to the investigation, to the victims and their families. So we're being very...
Okay, so it's impactful to the victims and their families. How about returning a car to the family with their deceased relative in pieces? Is that impactful? Could that possibly be impactful? I think that might be impactful. But you know what? Shields up. Here's why we can't do something. And they use the victims and they re-victimize them. Disgusting. Disgusting. They are scraping the bottom of the barrel. Nobody re-victimizes a victim. You don't do it. Disgusting.
very careful in terms of providing that information at the appropriate time.
That carefulness with providing information, you received a firearms call at 10:30. By the time you issued your first tweet, you had at least one homicide. I'm not clear on how many you knew about, but you had at least one.
Do you know how many they had? We know that now. Do you know how many they had by that point? Probably 13. And it's then becomes from kitty cat rolling around, GIF, lock your doors, to, oh, we're responding to a weapons complaint. Please lock your door. 13 homicides, 3 fires. Oh, really? Oh, really? They're not inept. They were hiding from word go.
You describe that as a firearms complaint, but then, which sort of vastly undersold it, but then you sort of oversold it with stay in your homes, a very confusing message. Are you satisfied with the messaging that went out by the RCMP on Twitter?
Yeah, very satisfied with the messaging, both with our CIC.
Now, this is probably why Frank really got the boot, other than asking really pertinent questions. Very pointed questions that you would ask if it were a friend, right? You want answers. You're going to ask those kinds of questions. Obviously, friends aren't going to be in this position because you know what? Your friends don't do that. But the reason that probably he got tanked, because he set him up. Very satisfied with the Twitter. He suggested it, and it made them look like fools. Not that they weren't anyway.
But then, which sort of vastly undersold it, but then you sort of oversold it with stay in your homes, a very confusing message. Are you satisfied with the messaging that went out by the RCMP on Twitter?
Yeah, very satisfied with the messaging, both with our CIC, so the commander at the time, in terms of his messaging to the officers that were in the area.
Made him look like a fool. Made him look like a fool. You set him up. And they didn't like it. Didn't like that. So Frank, well, he doesn't get to come back. He asks those hard questions, the ones that CBC won't delete and Global won't remove, or CTV will suppress an interview or interviews. He asked the questions, and he made them put pie all over their face. Let's see what else we got here. Great questions, though. Here we go. How about this one? This one's pretty good. Kind of admit their dereliction of duty. Excellent. Oh, I'd haul this out in court.
Another RCMP officer that we know had stopped into the gunman's residence on several occasions. And we've since interviewed that officer. And that officer was looking for signs and having conversations with the gunman. However, he didn't see anything that would have caused him any concern or allowed him to take any further action.
What? They just admitted multiple times. Oh, that's not good. That's not good, especially when Truro has the report. Paul Wortman is on the record saying, I had to call you back several times to even get a response from you to whether you visited my son who had threatened me with weapons. The internal memo which says where the guns are. Oh, Brenda Forbes, we knew all about the weapons. Let's see. What does he say? Is he admitting? Is he admitting that they went there and knew about it? Uh-oh.
Another RCMP officer that we know had stopped into the gunman's residence on several occasions. And we've since interviewed that officer, and that officer was looking for signs and having conversations with the gunman.
Oh, so it's one officer. The same officer. Several times. Might he be a friend? A friend who supplies uniforms? How does Mr. Wortman have a badge? A badge, no less. A real police car? A badge? Uniforms? Halifax Regional Police uniform? Big yellow puffy coats with RCMP gravel road cop? Reflective tape? How does he have that? Oh, those online auctions, don't you know? Well, I looked. I can't find them. Maybe I'm bad at searching. I may not be techno whiz with the fucking social media junk that they're overseeing, all of it, with object or Operation Wide Awake, which now isn't enough for them. They need more. But I'm not too bad at searching. And I can't find anything. I can't find cages for sale in Canada for police cars. Come on. Again, they're doing this to you. There, you're just dumb. Don't worry about it. Okay. Better be very careful what you say. Because just like when I learned when I was a kid, you have to be very careful what you write. That's one of the things I learned very young. You don't talk to the police, and you be very careful. Anything that you put down on a piece of paper, and this was prior to internet, can come back and haunt you. Likewise, anything that you say can haunt you. Anything I say can haunt me. But if you say an officer was stopping in there multiple times and did nothing, well, that's a problem, isn't it? Hey, Mark, what's going on? $475,000. I don't know. Let's hear how they responded. Now, of course, we all know we're good humans, right? Everybody here is good humans. All the people over here are good humans. The ones over on Facebook are good humans. They're all seeking truth. Paul Palango is a good human. Now, do you think if we had mistakenly in their position, and if you had that kind of authority to do that, obviously, mistakenly unannounced, opened fire on a fire hall where victims were maybe going to be evacuated to, where there is your own officers, where there are firemen, as in citizens, and you make that mistake, do you think you're going to apologize for it? Let's hear how the RCMP deal with that one. Where do we have that? Here we go.
There's something I'll add about Onslow because what took place on April 19th, as the incident was unfolding and was traumatic for those that were there.
Traumatic for them.
Since then, I, along with local RCMP commanders from the area, met with the chief and deputy of the Onslow Fire Brigade to hear firsthand what people had experienced on the 19th. We had a very respectful and honest conversation, and as partners, we made a commitment to continue to work shoulder to shoulder in our shared responsibility of public safety. We are moving forward together and are compensating the fire service for the damage to the property at the fire hall.
Whoa. They're going to work hand in hand, continue to work hand in hand. Were they working hand in hand that day? Because if they're going to continue to do that, there's a problem. There's no admission of guilt, no apology. We're going to listen to your trauma, and we'll work hand in hand with you just like we did that day. Thanks for that, sir. When somebody is not man enough to admit that they made a mistake, they aren't a man. They're a worm. And they're a worm that will go on repeating the same mistake because they don't believe they made a mistake. Just using their own words. Sorry about that if that offends people. Maybe I'll get the one police officer who came. He wasn't, and he didn't say, listen, I'm an RCMP. What he did was just trash my hair that day. Wow. You can throw around ad hominems. Now, I understand that's probably a big term for him. That means when you have nothing to bring to the table, all you can do is insult another individual, and you didn't like my hair that day? Oh, wow. And so I plug in, who is this person? Oh, first subscription they have, RCMP Nova Scotia. No, what news? East Coast would say. What news? I think hopefully East Coast, I haven't written them back. I've got like a to-do list that's like huge, and I don't seem to be doing it, but much of it anyway. But I know that God will provide, shall we say. And everything will come to pass as it should. But I'm hoping East Coast will join me tomorrow. Hopefully you guys will too. He let me know he wanted to do a show. So it's been a long time since he and I did a show. Tend to get in trouble when my I think it was Little Miss So, asked me about whether I'm going to be talking about the things that I used to talk about. And I most certainly will, but this is a priority to me. I play chess. I know what's coming down the pike if we let this one slide. We've let it slide. We've let all of it slide. We trust it. This is our biggest problem, is our own trust has been weaponized against us. Oh, don't worry. The teachers can take care of my kids. They'll teach them right. Oh, the government will provide for me, when I'm in need, if I need AI, or they're going to do the right things. They're going to protect citizens. Oh, the RCMP, they're there for me. It's our trust we relinquish to people. Oh, the internet companies, they would never do anything bad with that data. Just trusting, trust. That's weapon. Now, I'm not saying that you should run around distrust everybody. I can see that's the way it's going to go. It's already gone there, right? Look at how people act with one another today. You're doing something nice for me? There must be an ulterior motive. You must mean me harm. Doors used to be unlocked, remember? You could go out. Didn't have to lock your car. Funny that. I was trying to explain that the other day to somebody because oh, sorry, I just saw something there and it distracted me for a moment. We'll get back to that in a minute. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. I know it will. Let's go back to see where we were here. He didn't like my hair. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that. Like, possibly he was looking for a date. I can't say. But I think it was more just he didn't really have anything to bring to the table because he knew he was totally in the wrong, i.e. ad hominem. So I can't attack what you're saying because you know what you're saying is really true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call you different things. I'm going to label you, or I'm going to, you notice how this is the way the world works? That's the way the world works. When you use this and they can't touch it, then they just spout vileness. I prefer to beat people with their own arguments. That was the way I was raised. I don't know about other people. Pinned down.
There were also several structures that were already fully engulfed in flames.
That was what they responded to. Dead bodies. First person was shot. First person they encountered, shot by a police car, a person driving a police car who clearly identified who it was, as in Mr. Wortman, because how many people are flying around on Portapique Beach Road in police cars? Oh, it's got to be Eddie Murphy, Or, I don't really know. I mean, there's so many people flying around in police cars down here. We don't know who that is. So they respond. They respond, and they encounter the man who tells them who it is, what car he's driving, of course, cop car, which they knew about, of course, and that he's shooting people, and that there's fires, and that they have multiple homicides. And they know that, and they don't tell anybody anything. They hide in the woods. I've heard something about this. Now, I don't know that that's true. Maybe you guys can tell me in the chat whether that's true or not. But I have heard that there were a couple people who were hiding in the woods, the initial responders. They were terrified. I understand fear, but fear defeats you if you let it. Fear defeats people from saying something like, oh, you know what you're doing is wrong because I'm afraid the RCMP might come after me. Well, frankly, you know what? That's what I say. I don't really care. You can come after me all you want. It doesn't change the fact that what you did was wrong. What you have been doing is wrong. Immoral. Illegal. And when people dig deep enough, they will see what happened down in, even the conclusion of the event. What do you call this? Massacre, a mass traumatization perpetrated by one individual and an entire police force upon all Canadians, not just Nova Scotians. I mean, you can triage it, obviously. the victims' families first, then all of Nova Scotia, but all Canadians. Because it makes them think twice. Oh my goodness, should I be responding? You know, should I be phoning the police? There he is sitting there, leather. Oh, we activate the alert because we want to show you that we can use that. You know, we can use it. We didn't use it that day, but we'll show you. When we hear a construction noise, we can use it because it'll distract you. And you might think that we do use it. And then he says to you, on top of the fact we fucked up because we used it, you know what? We're going to blame you on top of it because that's what he did. He said, well, you know why? That's why we don't use it, because then people phone. They phone. Where's that he says that? That's pretty fucking gross, too. Just gross statements. Not human statements, not moral statements, not good statements, gross statements, immoral, disgusting, bottom-feeding statements. And if that person can sleep with themselves at night and feel good about it, you know what you're dealing with there. Not a good person. Where was that? Excuse me. Where did I put that? Here we go. My God. Use their own words to defeat them.
On April 24th, I made the decision to activate Alert Ready in a separate incident where credible information was received of shots fired involving an automatic gun moving towards a densely populated area within the Halifax region. As a result of activating the alert for a dynamic police incident, we learned of the unintended consequences. Following the alert, there were a large number of people who called 911 to ask non-emergency related questions. Such as,
Here we go. This is called the blame game. Your fault. We used the emergency alert when we shouldn't have, and we didn't when we should have. But when we do use it, and it's not the right case, because I'll bring up the construction stuff, because that's what it was about. Construction. And a guy had a Canadian Tire. But then he's going to blame you. Oh, people, you damn people, you dammies, you phone 911. That's why we don't use it. That's why we didn't use it that night. It's your fault. Here you go. This is the sign of a man, a true man. Not the way I was raised. I'll certainly say that.
we learned of the unintended consequences. Following the alert, there were a large number of people who called 911 to ask non-emergency related questions, such as, should I pick up my children? Where should I hide? What do I do?
Now, not to interrupt him, the reason that people are phoning is because you allowed 22 people to die all over your province. 22. So you have traumatized all of those people, and they're scared to death because you can't tell them anything. And they don't know what's going on. And they know, oh my goodness, when I have a problem, I can't trust my police force. And that's what's going to happen when you hear a construction noise a few days later. You know, it's like the beaten wife. Have you ever watched a woman that's highly abused? Highly abused. I have. And when they're in a relationship that they're not, but they have been abused for so long, when they're in a relationship that they're not, they're constantly, they'll do something really weird with their eyes, out of the side of their eye when they say something, because they're worried they're going to get hit. They're worried they're going to get hurt because they've been traumatized so much. And this is why people were phoning 911, because you fucked up. But he and his force doesn't accept responsibility. He blames you because you're afraid. Who made you afraid? That man. That man right there. Am I pointing the right way? That man right there. That man. And his force. Because they knew about what was happening for decades. And they didn't do anything about it. And they didn't do anything about it because they were complicit. Complicity. Again, another heavy charge to level. And I don't like to throw them out unless I feel fairly confident. But you're not going to let people get away with what you had Mr. Wortman getting away with. Threatening his father, knowing where weapons were, many claims of weapons, assaults on children, 2 men with a crowbar, run-ins with the police. And you just turn your head and you're like, hopefully nobody will notice. No, nobody's going to notice on this one. There, you dumbos, you. And I understand people want to go after Trudeau. I can assure you, your political system, even though you may not believe me, is a joke. It's a joke. Doesn't matter who you put in power. Because you see the same thing all over the world. They all do it. Some at varying paces, i.e. Conservative Party will go a little bit slower. Bellwether. The election is a bellwether to the people in power. How much shit can we get away with? Well, we'll put in those people. They fix elections. They do everything anyway. No, people won't do anything. They won't say anything. It's okay. They'll do their tweeties and twatties. And one of my favorite lines out of a song, as of late, has something to do with the amount of unity that people have is behind their Facebook page. And that's it. That's where it ends. They've got you so balkanized, divided on every single topic under the sun, and they keep inventing new ones every which way from Sunday. That's why all my old videos always said, stop the balkanization. Don't fall prey to it. That's what they're trying to do. Because the more that you are united, the more dangerous that you are, you pose a risk to them because they know they are very few in number. Very, very few in number. And we have this, and we have numbers. And that's scary. And we have morality, right? And many of us, not a judgment on anybody under here, nobody. Everybody walks their path. But many of us have God. And that's scary. That's why they like to destroy Christmas and do all that shit. But nobody, back to what I'm saying, nobody blames people that are traumatized. And here you go again. Blaming. A man admits his faults. He says, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Here's how I'm going to make amends, and we're going to try our level best never to have it happen again. And I don't care. If you got to pay out, if you got to pay out money, right? It's our money. If you got to pay out money because of what you did, which means that we're responsible for that, right? I.e., if we were a company and we're the CEO and we have to pay out for bad actors like this man and his cohorts, then we fire them because we don't like to lose money in our company. Money, which is just a joke anyway. But that's the way the world works. But you see, they understand you ain't going to do shit because you're not united, and they can lie to you and you will take it. You will stand on a dot. You will do whatever they fucking tell you to do. Right? I'm not throwing that around. I'm using a euphemism, right? This is what they understand. They think that you will do that. But they will learn. You can't keep bullying people and they will take it lying down. And I'm not saying boogaloo or any of this. Use this. Use their own fucking laws that they invented. I come from a family of all lawyers, lots of them, and judges. It's in my blood. But laws are garbage. We only need simple ones that were provided to us in the Bible, right? Irrespective of whether you believe in God or not. It's a good moral compass. You don't need regulations out the wazoo and all these make-work projects and fake jobs and law. That would put all my family out of business. All of them. Frankly, it should. We don't need to sit around and fight with one another like animals. We're not animals. We're good human beings, and we care about each other, and we care about the truth. Fucking Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Oh, yeah. One book. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He told some very big truths in that book, and you won't find it in English. How many Nobel Prizes did he win for literature? 2? 1 at least, possibly 2. Thereby, he's probably a pretty good author. But one book, ain't gonna see it in English. Anybody know what that book is? Here's a BlackRock hedge fund. Yeah, BlackRock. There we go. Oh, good news. Good news. People in here are dropping bombs. They are. You know, I'm not gonna weigh in at this point in time. That will come. That will come. And I think any of you who know me know. And as soon as I came back, I'll tell you the shit hit the fan on YouTube. Because I realized I had made a mistake. And that's why I took my time. And I was like, fuck that, man. I am not going to be weaponized against my own people. I'm going to learn. Who is running this show? Because certainly isn't me. And it certainly isn't you. And it certainly doesn't have to do with just Canada. And I don't go off into the fucking smoke and mirrors that they try to lay out. Deceive, deceive, deceive. Anybody know that book? Anybody know it yet? Skill testing question. Deceive. It's a shell game. And they'll get you off thinking, oh, it's the UN, or it's Chi-Coms, or it's this, or it's that. Meanwhile, it's always been under your nose the whole time. Under my nose. God, when I learned that, I felt horrendous. I started tracing the money. Just keep following the money, man. And it has nothing to do with the money. It has to do with the control. Control you. More and more and more and more and more and more. Vaccines don't have anything to do with control. Standing on dots has nothing to do with money. Sorry, I misspoke there. Standing on dots has nothing to do with money, does it? But what it does have to do with is how much can I tell you to do something and you're going to do it. Just because I tell you things and your trust, I will weaponize that against you. Still nobody with the book? Oh, I'm sad. I'm sad. I swore I thought I knew somebody might know in that name and book, name of the book in here.
Fourth, I made the decision to activate Alert Ready in a separate incident where credible information was received of shots fired
really?
Involving an automatic gun moving towards a densely populated area within the Halifax region.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of activating the alert.
Who activated it? Was it Halifax Regional? Was it Halifax Regional? Or was it the RCMP? This man. No. Why am I always pointing the wrong way? I'm backward here. Gets me reversed all up here. And his cohorts, like the one who likes to remain very quiet. Microphone 5,000 feet from her. Because then, well, you don't really notice her, right? Oh, I certainly notice her.
For a dynamic police incident, we learned of the unintended consequences. Following the alert, there were a large number of people who called 911 to ask non-emergency related questions, such as, should I pick up my children? Where should I hide? What do I do? In addition, the alert was activated well beyond the affected geographic area. And what I mean by that is people who lived in Prince Edward Island and Yarmouth received the alert for what was an HRM incident. This resulted in delays to calls being answered at provincial 911 centers, and many calls were not answered at all because of the call volumes.
Oh, it's your goddamn fault. You traumatize people. Uh-oh. Let's see what it actually was all about. Let's get that up there. Let's just see. Is it something like this? No evidence. Credible evidence. Lying out his ass. No evidence. Zero. Zip. Zipola. Construction site. ×2. Oh, we heard somebody dropping a board. Oh my God, we'll turn on the emergency alert. People will think we use this and they'll stop asking questions. Really? And then you have the audacity on top of trying to fuck Canadians over again? Really? As in, oh yeah, they won't notice. they'll think we're doing good things over here. To lie to them and then say to them, oh, by the way, it's your fault. We didn't use it. Are you serious? Because you phone 911, because you're traumatized, because kids were hiding in the basement for 2 fucking hours. And I do get passionate, you know, because it burns and breaks my heart to see how much we have been screwed with and lied to and continually lied to. This world is built on lies. Lies from your history books, lies from your politicians who are just actors, lies from your banks. Oh, banks. Oh, banks. Lies from media. Always common factors. Common factors. Yep. Yep. You know it. The lion. And that's a battle for another day. But I assure you, I'm coming back with it. And that's why, you know, I don't ask for really anything. I don't care. I do ask for your ear and your mind to entertain my thoughts. That's all. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove to me I'm wrong. Well, that's great. I want to learn. I love learning. And I make a lot of mistakes. But I do ask that you share what you learn. If you learn for yourself that it's true. And I know YouTube is going to shut me down. And I'll tell you, other people know it too. Let's see if I can find that. And I know, you know, I don't want to be tinfoily. I really don't. I try to live in the real world as much as I can. Evidence, evidence, evidence. But there was a funny thing that happened. There was a funny thing that happened some time back. I don't know where it was, though. Let's see. Can I find it? I wonder if I can search my comments. Can I search my comments? Oh, wait. Comments? I don't know if I can search them. No. And I don't remember what video it is. There was video I made. Doesn't matter what video it was. It was just something about the Nova Scotia stuff. But somebody came and left a very interesting comment. I'm not going to scroll through them all to try and find it. And they left a comment, and it said, it was from altcensored.com. I don't know if you people are familiar with who altcensored.com is, but they left a message, and they said, we're monitoring your channel now 24 hours a day for any videos that get deleted. You have your own page on our site. And I was like, oh, I know who those people are. Me, some buffoon out in Calgary. And alt-censored is going to take notice of me? I'm like, what the fuck? But clearly, some of what I was saying, because I was starting to talk about it before I quit making YouTube, they deleted my last 5 videos without telling me. They didn't even give me a warning. They didn't, nothing, just gone. I was like, because I changed my tune. And I knew I had to go away. I had to go and learn. Because what am I going to do if I don't know the truth? And it's an ever-evolving thing. It probably is going to go higher up on the food chain. I don't know, but I know where I have been. And clearly, Alt-Censored must have heard something. Because I came back, I made a few YouTubes. Shit really hit the fan somewhere here on YouTube, right? Some of you may or may not know about some of that. And videos were getting banned. I got my first warning for a strike because I don't generally say anything without something I can back it up with. Everything, evidence. And clearly they heard something prior to the Nova Scotia stuff. It was pretty early on they made that comment. And I will go back there because we have to go after who is causing the problems. We have to say their names. We have to be able to say their names. Not in fear. Not let our own fear defeat us. Not let them intimidate us anymore. I'm not going to be intimidated. What are you going to do to me? Going to put me in jail? Okay. Financially, I'm not quite sure what you can do to me. I'm kind of insulated, but never know. But that's a battle that I'm willing to take on because I believe in the truth. I believe in the goodness and humanity of people. All of us. That's where my trust lies. My trust is with God and with my fellow man. The ones that are here right now, the ones that are listening, the ones that are saying, why is this happening to me or to my family? And I want it to stop. How do I stop it? Don't ever, ever believe the lie that you can't do something. The amount of power that you have. In fact, I think I heard Palango say that. The power that one person has. Pretty amazing. You have power. You have power. Real power. They just made you feel like you don't. They made all of us feel like we don't. Traumatize them. Keep hurting them. Keep getting them to fight with one another. Let's invent more issues. Fight, 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 fight. Unity. Unity. Common purpose. Not the little shit that they get us all off in. The little... And I'm not minimizing some of these issues. But at the core of ourselves, we all still have the same beliefs. It doesn't matter where you sit on a political spectrum, if you're into that. You don't want somebody robbing your house. You don't want your wife cheating on you, or you don't want to get murdered when you walk down the street. You want to be able to pick up 911 and know that somebody's going to come and protect you. Power. I'm telling you, you got it, man. And they're afraid of that. They're very afraid. No matter what they have, they indoctrinate you from fucking cradle to grave. Cradle to grave. All of us. I say you. When I say you, I mean me too. All of us. Because I believed it. And I was like, what? No, You can't be saying that. I learned so much. It was so different. What you told me, what you taught me in school, in university. What are you talking about? What I hear on the media, what I see on the movies, what I hear in my music. It can't be. But facts don't lie. They don't. We're going to win it. I believe. People used to, my mother always says to me, you're such a pessimist. She doesn't say it like that. She's nice. But she's like, oh, it's hard being around you because you're such a pessimist. And I said, you have no idea how optimistic I am. Hope. If I had none, what the fuck would I be here for? I'd just check out. No point. Right? If I want to be a lemming and just go along with the flow, and my life just gets worse and worse and worse, I watch those around me, their lives just deteriorate, my society deteriorate. Well, what's the point? There's no challenge in that. Don't put Trudeau under house arrest. It doesn't matter. Good news. Good news. I love the name. Doesn't matter. Put him under house arrest. Who cares? You're gonna have a fucking another puppet step in there. Doesn't matter what fucking party. Those clowns, and you know who I'm talking about. They'll just stick another one in there. We'll believe it. More? Can we have more? It's like that saying, here, would you like to try this? It tastes like shit. What are you, crazy? No, actually, I don't. Try this. It tastes like shit. Yeah. No. I actually don't want to eat that. Thank you. There you go. Somebody said it in chat. You had to find it. Was it hard work? Tommy. Oh. Uh-oh. You know that label's going to come out. No! I just say it how it is. That book's not translated. Why? Very hard to find some of his speeches. The people that tell the truth, they never want you to hear. Ever. Because it's the truth. And the truth hurts. They'd rather have you living in deception. Deception. And they've deceived all of us for a very long time. And I am not blanketing. I am saying people within that community, they built themselves the shields up. And nobody can touch them. And your mind doesn't want to even go there. But to any of my fellow Christian friends, because you're all my friends, right? You're not my best friends. You're not somebody I go out with every day, but you're my friends. Because you're my fellow man, woman, whatever. But the man, fellow man. There's nothing wrong with saying fellow man. You man. never want you to know the truth. Ever. As soon as you start to find it, oh, watch out. Your mind will do strange things. It will tell yourself the cognitive disconnect. I just can't understand. That was just not what I was told. That was not the way I learned. And, oh, no, it can't be. But what if it is? What news? What news? Oh, there are lots of things in that book. That's why I said, my fellow Christians, read it closely. Read it with a bit of a different mindset. Just like you have to look at the RCMP or any of these things, and you have to change it just a little bit, and you'll see it. Because it's right there in front of you. Always was. If the RCMP are working against you, then it makes sense. Now you understand why this is happening. Or our governments work against each other and they work in unison and they work for other people. The right-left mentality. This is a difficult one. Maybe people will understand it. Maybe they won't. But the idea of the right and the left is a construction. Little things here and there. Sure, we want different things. Radical transformation, social indoctrination, social engineering. Those benefit other people, not you. I have fucking mountains of garbage on my computer. The hard drives all over. One of the most poignant ones that sticks out in my mind, 70%, the cover of the Toronto Sun. I don't remember the exact number. I think it was 72% or something like that, of Canadians disagree with the Omar Khadr settlement. You have to think to yourself, why would a government, again, I don't believe in that shit of who is it? Is it Scheer? Is it Trudeau? That's just, it's a quagmire they try to get you locked down into. But why would a government who I democratically elected and is hoping to get their job again do something that 72% of people disagree with? Wouldn't they want to do things that the majority of people agree with? And then you see it and it's in England, and you see it and it's in the UK, and you see it and it's in Australia. And it doesn't really matter what issue it really is. It's because they don't care, and you aren't their bosses. This is a confusing one for some people. And it's not to say, oh my God, you're so behind. What's wrong with you? No. That just means we got to help each other out. And I used to do snowshoe racing. If somebody couldn't do it, you picked them up and you carried them, because it was going to get done. Sometimes you'd use something called a scarf. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Yeah. But you see, this is why I don't want to mix the two, right? Because there is a common purpose. All Canadians can agree on. Not everybody can agree on what I'm saying right now. The mind will go, I don't want to hear that. I can't hear it. It's no. But RCMP, everybody can agree on. I think, right? We want a safe society. We want people taking care of us. We want to feel safe. So they're two separate things. And just because I have an understanding of certain things, or many of you may have the same understanding, if you disagree with me on that, it does not negate what I'm saying about the RCMP. It absolutely does not change the facts, right? Just because somebody says something that you disagree with does not mean that you can't agree with them on something else. This is why you can always find things between even some of the most radical people that they all agree on. We all agree on, hey, yeah, I don't like that. I don't want to be hurt. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Me. Anyway, this channel is about I'm sorry, Craig. My apologies. So yes, I do stuff about Nova Scotia shooting. Periodically, I do go off into a bit of a segue. My apologies. Maybe I should just say that or something, or I can just try and keep it in check. Very much so, this channel is about this channel at this point in time. So all of the videos, I think all of the videos that I have on save, there's a discussion with Critical Thinker, even though I think some of that actually does also have Nova Scotia stuff in it. But all the rest of the videos that are public at this point in time, because there's a lot that are in private, are dedicated to Nova Scotia shooting and investigating the Nova Scotia shooting and coming up with the truth from the Nova Scotia shooting. So I do apologize. I do apologize if I segued there. And I do hope I didn't lose too many ears along the way, because I need the truth. I need the truth for myself. I need the truth for my friends and my family. I need the truth for you. I need the truth for Nova Scotians. I need the truth for a very good friend of mine whose family was very negatively impacted by what happened down there. So we'll keep plugging away, and we're making progress. We're making real progress here. This is amazing. I am elated to say that we've got what I've been advocating for. We finally got a class action suit going, and this is very important that Canadians do this themselves. If you're going to rely upon the public inquiry system, sadly, I wish I could say that was a good system, but it isn't. And if the questions that Canadians want to be answered, they'll have to be answered in a court of law, in my opinion. So this is excellent news. I encourage you, anybody who here is not already a member of our Discord, please join. Please come and share your wisdom, your knowledge, your technical skills, your skills in whatever with us, all of us, because we need to learn. And I know that I'm hoping to, that unity will come across multiple platforms here. I know that there's people over on Facebook that are doing some pretty great work. I have people reaching out to me. Again, my contact information and stuff is down below, as is the Discord. But you can contact me on email, on Twitter, and I do apologize. I'm sorry. I try my level best to get back to people. I do have quite a list of things that people I have to respond to. Actually, I even missed. I think I might have missed phoning the Globe and Mail. Oops. But we'll phone tomorrow. So anyway, I do appreciate you all coming out. Steve put up a video. Yes, it was taken down. Yes, YouTube is doing some, and has been for quite some time here, doing some very interesting things about the copyright. And they just, and I noticed somebody else totally unrelated to us at a very, was commenting about it today on YouTube. They made a YouTube about the copyright and how their videos are all being removed because of copyright. So this is common thing. Thank you, Craig. Thank you. I appreciate you getting me back on track. So, but the beginning part of this program, or this stream, was the replay of Paul Palango. And he said some great stuff in there. He talked about, some of these connections that were being kept in the dark about, and about some of the horrific things that the RCMP are doing. I mean, more horrific than just the children. It just keeps heaping up on top of one another, right? I mean, nobody's going to return a car that hasn't been cleaned like that. That's just, I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like. But using that passion and that as motivation to put our good brains together and find little details and things like this, that's what it's about. So anyway, I do hope that you all have a super day. God bless you. And even if you don't believe in God, never hurts to have somebody say, hey, God bless you. So take good care of yourselves, take good care of your families and those around you, and even just strangers. Hold that door. Say thank you. And we're going to see you soon. We'll keep this fight up. I promise. We're going to win. Take care. God bless.